Are we ready?
Because you were shooting for March, right?
First it was January.
Oh, mid-March.
And now.
Nope.
Go for it.
Should we get up and do some stretches?
Jumping jacks.
Room 1. You're sitting back there, right?
Post-credits.
Come on though, isn't
We're
that
gonna
pretty?
get it on.
Didn't that do pretty? It's pretty.
You took the picture as well?
Oh, so are you.
Took it from
Was it on
the
YouTube?
website.
From PowerPoint.
Yeah, actually PowerPoint's like AI design. It's great now. You're crazy good.
I know, in the 90s it sucked.
Even 5 years ago. It was
Hi.
Hi.
All right, I think we can start. I'm so very excited. My name is Diane Campbell. I'm a registered dietitian, and in the state of Florida, you have to be licensed as well. So I am a registered dietitian and a licensed nutritionist. Here is a little bit of my story before I get started real quick. Grew up in Canada on a farm and was totally influenced by my 8th grade home ec teacher. She was fantastic. Her name was Miss Galbraith, and I wanted to be her. So when I finished high school, I said to Mom, I'm going to be a home economics teacher. I was the first child in our family to go to college, and Mom said, okay. So I went to college, and I went into education. And my first year of education, I was in a 2nd grade classroom, and I have full respect for teachers, but I decided at that moment it was not for me. So I did decide, though, I really fell in love with nutrition, and it made sense to me. The science made sense to me. So I went to my faculty advisor, my first year of university. In Canada, we call it university. And I said to them, can I take some more nutrition classes? And they said, Diane, if you're going to take more nutrition classes, you need to be transferred to the field of agriculture. And I was like, what? And I grew up on a farm, okay? So I was like, what? Okay. So I'm like, okay, I want to learn about nutrition, so I'll learn about nutrition. So of course I went home, and Dad was working in the pig pen, and I went up to him and I'm like, so I guess I'm in the field of agriculture. He's like, you're going to be a farmer. And I'm like, no, Dad, I think I'm just studying nutrition. And he's like, okay, whatever, go do your thing, right? So in my 3rd year, most people have a plan. So in my 3rd year, I graduated in 4 years, and then you have to take an internship afterwards, and multiple stuff after that to become a dietitian. But in my 3rd year, I was taking a peer course with one of my peers, and she mentioned to me, did I have any volunteer experience in order to apply for internship? And I said to her, what are you talking about? And she said, you're en route to become a dietitian, right? And I said, what's a dietitian? And she said, are you serious? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And she goes, holy cow, you're so behind. And I'm like, oh no, right? So she's like, look at all this volunteer experience I have. And I was like, okay, I'm in trouble. So I went home and I talked to Mom and Dad, and I'm like, I guess I'm en route to be a dietitian, and I don't really have any of all of this other stuff that the peers have, but I think I like it. So dietetic internship is actually harder to get into than medical internship. So my class was a graduating class, I think of 65, small, we were in Canada, and 15 of us got chosen for internship. So I wasn't one of them. So that year, of course, there's a little sadness, but turned it around, and I got picked up by a grant and went into schools, elementary, junior high, and high schools to teach kids about positive body image to try to prevent eating disorders. The following year, I got accepted to internship, and that was fantastic. I've worked in many facets of dietetics. My very first job was liver transplant. My second job was gastric bypass. My third job was the ICU dietitian that rounded with all the doctors. And all of this time I was doing it in, so just to rewind just a little bit, Canada, too cold. Okay, it was way too cold. I needed to get out. I knew I wanted to get out very early because it was cold. Poor mom, she's still there, but she visits often. So we moved to California. So California recruited me. We lived there for 18 years. It was fantastic until it got way too expensive. And then we came here 4 years. We've been here for 4 years. And the whole time that I have done ICU, liver transplant, I've always had a private practice on the side. So I've always been like, okay, I need to keep the private practice up. So when I came to Florida, my thing was I wanted to really develop my private practice. And then COVID hit. So COVID hit, and it gave me a little bit of a time to sit back and actually read some literature. You know, do we actually ever get time to sit back and actually read literature? COVID did that. So I would like to teach you about the new ways to think about nutrition, because the old ways we think about it are old, they're old school, and they need to go away. So let's go through my presentation and see what you guys think. All right. So, food. We look at food right now. Some of us look at food just to fill the hole, okay? Let's just fill the hole. We have to stop doing that, guys. We have to look at food for its function, okay? Food is on this planet for its function. Sure, it's fun to have every once in a while, but if we're having fun more than we are function, we're going to be in trouble. We're not going to be in the best health. And as, it's hard for me to say, as I age, there is a difference between growing old and having longevity. So what I want for my life and what I want for my husband's life is longevity. Longevity means being able to play with my grandchildren. Longevity means being able to have dates with my husband. I don't want to be in a nursing home, and I don't want to be sick. So this new literature that's come out will finally take us to the place where we don't have to go there. So I'm going to start with this. The single most important thing that you can do every single day to change your health is to decide what you're going to put on the end of your fork or your spoon. Because every bite that you take has a biological function that goes with it. So there is this term called epigenetics. This is a big scientific term. But we used to think, if your mom has Alzheimer's, I'm going to get Alzheimer's. If your mom has diabetes, I'm going to get diabetes. That's not true anymore, guys. If we follow a healthy lifestyle and we follow a healthy diet and relax our stress, we're trying to do that, relax our stress, then we don't have to turn on those genes. We don't have to be our parents. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, so this is my story. Legit story. So I've been a dietitian, like I said, for way too long, for almost 30 years. And I was overweight, 20 to 30 pounds overweight. I know I don't look it here, maybe, but you can see I have some belly here. My arms are a little bit bigger. But honestly, I was the dietitian that was like, I'm comfortable with my body, every body at every size. It's great, you know, because I had to. Everything I did was not working. I was weight loss resistant. And I said to my husband, we were in Mammoth, and I'm like, I guess I'm just going to be this way forever. And that's okay. That's okay. Until he showed me the photo album of this trip. And this trip, I had so many pictures of me sleeping. Sleeping on the beach, sleeping here, sleeping there. The worst one was when I came to Florida for a vacation, and I fell asleep on the safari ride in Animal Kingdom. Completely fell asleep. And I thought to myself, I am a sick woman and I am a dietitian. What is going on? So I didn't know what to do. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism after I gave birth to my daughter. She's 15 now. So I just figured this is how my life was going to be. I'd have to figure out how to take naps and work around my energy until I moved to Florida. Florida, I came here, and finally we're getting the real education about what we really need to do to get better. So I'm going to give you just a few seconds, guys, and take that little quiz that I gave you. If you have a pen, I don't have any. Oh, I have some markers. I need a marker.
I'll grab some pen.
Just for fun, just for kicks and giggles. Because all of these answers will be all of these questions will be answered in my presentation. Don't overthink it. Did you get one?
No.
Did you get left out?
Thank you. We might need another one, I think. I'll take one.
Sorry.
You can have this, Mama. Oh, me? Yes. You were there. Oh, nope, it's yours. I'll come sit next to you. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. I'll take one. Because I'm gonna do this one.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Diane Campbell. I'm Dr. C's referring dietitian, and I'm giving a talk today telling you and hopefully teaching you that we can actually use food as medicine instead of taking polypharmacy. So I'm giving you a few seconds to try just to answer the quiz, the silly quiz that I gave you, only because we're going to answer all of those questions in the presentation.
Oh. Can I go in?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I know, but no cheating.
Thank you.
Will
There
this
she
go
goes.
for a final grade?
Yes, exactly.
I didn't know
Okay.
that.
Just in the interest of professional.
So anyways, this was me. I was a dietitian. I graduated from nutrition school, Diet University, in 1996. And after I gave birth, I could not seem to lose weight. And then I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. And I just figured that this is how I was going to live my life. And then I saw a photo album of how many places that I was sleeping. And I decided that this is not the way that I wanted to live my life. So I moved to Florida. COVID hit. We bought this house. We didn't build it, but we had a beautiful home office for people to come into. Then COVID hit. So then we went virtual, which is fine. But we still have this beautiful home office that eventually hopefully will be used again. But my practice completely switched after I read the new literature. So let me teach you about the new literature and get rid of this old garbage literature that's up there. So this is quite alarming, actually. Check this out. I'm going to tell you, I was born in 1973. So 1973, only 17% of the population were overweight. Heart disease was very rare. You would actually see most people very lean, very long, and no gut at all. Then what happened in 1977 was the introduction of processed food and snacking. Fast forward to where we are now, to 88% of the population is overweight, 34% of the population is morbidly obese, which leaves only 12 of us metabolically fit. What does metabolically fit mean? It means you don't have heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, or insulin resistance. 88% of our population has that. So I'm just going to say one thing, and this is the only thing I'm going to say about this, is we are in the middle of a crisis with Ukraine and Russia right now. And if we have to go to war, and only 12% of us are metabolically fit, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. So we are going the wrong way, and here is where I want to circle on. This is what happened, the introduction of the snacking. So here is the crazy thing I'm going to tell you, and this is going to blow your mind, and it blew mine too. When I first became a dietitian, it was all about calories, okay? That's the only model we knew. Calories in, calories out. That's what we knew. So that's what we taught. However, when my clients would come in and I would teach them calories and I would restrict their calories, they would do great. But then when they come back in and they would just start eating normally again after they achieved their weight loss, they would gain their weight and more. So there was this huge study done. Do you guys remember The Biggest Loser? Okay. So The Biggest Loser was huge. We watched it in California, my husband and I was intrigued by it because they lost weight so quickly. But do you notice how there was never a dietitian in there? They never talked about nutrition, okay? What they did is they lowered the calories for these people so much their metabolism fell. So before they went onto the show, we took their biometrics. So we took their resting metabolic rate. Okay, so that's your metabolism. So let's just say a dude went on there and he was 350 pounds, and he could eat 2,800 calories and still maintain his 350 pounds. Okay, I mean, it's not a great weight, but at least he could still eat. Okay, so then he went on the program and he lost a bunch of weight, and maybe he got down to 150 pounds. Maybe he was only 5'7" or something like that. Okay, when we remeasured his metabolic rate, it dropped to 1,200 calories. So if this same man ate over 1,200 calories, he gained weight. So if that was our only paradigm that we had, was let's lower your calories and then let's get you to your goal weight and let's bring you back up, how is that helping anybody? It's not. So for a long time, my husband's back there. He's my debriefer. So we were actually driving to Las Vegas at the time. I was reading this study to him, and I said to him, "We're screwed. I don't know what we're supposed to do. How are we supposed to help people? Because every time we put them on caloric restriction, they just gain weight more." So for a while, I actually took a step back from weight loss because I was like, I'm only harming people, not helping people. So I am a woman of faith, and I was driving in California, and this is cheesy as cheese can be, but I felt the Holy Spirit come to me and say, stop being so ignorant, you can help people, so open your mind and learn. So that's what I did when I came to Florida. So, who here thinks the only way that you can be healthy or lose weight is by counting calories?
Not
Okay, so nutrition studies are very hard to do. Unless we lock people in a room for 6 months to a year and control every single thing, it's hard to do long-term nutritional studies. But we've done short-term nutritional studies where we've used similar clients, similar body weights, but presented them different foods. So this in this jar right here is 300 calories of almonds. This right here is 300 calories of mini wheats. Okay? So we offered these same portions to adolescent boys for 6 months. We tried to control what they ate outside of it. It was hard to do, but we did give the same breakfast every single time. At the end of 6 months, the boy that ate the mini wheats gained 15 pounds. The boy that ate the almonds lost 5 pounds. Same calories, guys. What's the difference?
Intensity.
Quality. Quality is the difference. So when I counsel people now and they're like, tell me the calories, I have to tell people over and over again, this calorie thing that we've been on for so long doesn't work anymore. Calories are calories. There was one time I would say to a person, you can go to McDonald's, order a chicken McNugget, as long as you can fit in the calories, you're fine. Do you think I would do that today? Not in a million years. No way. So a calorie is a calorie. And I'll tell you what a calorie is. If you and I went to Europe together and we picked up a packaged product that had a barcode on it, instead of seeing the word calorie, we would see the word energy. Because calories are energy. So from one of the big things that I can pull from school still, from way back then, is my professor said to me, when we eat food, it should bring us energy. If we don't have energy after eating food, we ate the wrong thing. So if you're eating something and you want to go to sleep, you've probably eaten the wrong thing. Because food is energy. Calories is energy. So is a calorie calorie? Should we count calories? Or should we look at quality of the food? Quality of the food. Good job, good job, good job. So here is where the calorie goes. So for as long as we remember, it's called the energy model. If you undereat and you exercise, you'll lose weight. But if you overeat and you're not exercising enough, then you're going to gain weight. But what happens if we do exercise enough and we do eat right and we don't lose weight? Who do you think we blame? Ourselves. Ourselves. Do you know how many people I talk to every single day that says, I have no willpower? It's not about willpower. It's about your hormones. So I want to teach you about your hormones. So I tell every client that I meet, stop telling me you don't have hormones. You're controlled by stop telling me you don't have any willpower. You are controlled by your hormones. We have hormones in our gut, we have insulin hormone, we have our thyroid hormone, we have hormones everywhere. We're in a hormone center. So, maybe, just maybe, there's another reason that we're gaining weight and getting sick rather than just calories. So the key here is quality. The hormonal monster model is finally answered. Okay, so here goes. Here's my crazy demonstration that is a little bit crazy, but over Zoom, you have to make it a little fun. So, all right. This is a representation of a liver cell. We have billions of cells in our body, from our toes to our head, everywhere, okay? So let's imagine I eat in the morning. Oh no, my sugar fell off. I eat in the morning this, mini wheats, okay? So what happens is blood sugar drops. As soon as my blood sugar drops, my brain gets a message saying, Diane, we don't like that, we don't like that, we don't like that blood sugar in there. Push it out. So then my body says, okay, we're going to release this thing called insulin. So insulin comes along, attaches to the cell wall, opens the cell, the sugar goes in, and is used for energy. Okay? But can anybody tell me what the recommendations for the past, how old am I? For 27 years. Has it been to eat 3 meals a day, or has it been to eat 6 meals a day?
6.
6, exactly. And what we didn't understand then, and we understand now, and what a lot of people don't understand, is when we eat something that is carbohydrate, like oatmeal stays in our system for about 3 hours. People think that we eat and we get rid of it. We don't. When we eat something, let me grab one of those markers from somebody. Thank you. So when we eat something, let's just say the last conference I went to in California, before the world shut down, 5,000 dietitians were in the room. A renowned cardiologist from UCLA was up there, and he stood up and he said to 5,000 dietitians, will you please stop giving your patients oatmeal and toast and give them bacon and eggs for breakfast? And all of us went like this. So then he explained the hormonal model to us. So, I don't know if any of you have diabetes in here, but I don't have diabetes. But we all have blood sugar. So this is our blood sugar when we wake up in the morning, okay? So we're all here. So let's just assume in the morning I have oatmeal and toast with maybe some jelly. So then my blood sugar is going to go up. Okay, guys, it's going to go up. What people don't really understand is that our blood sugar stays up for 2 to 3 hours. And how often do we ask you to eat? Every 3 to 4 hours. So this is 2 to 3 right here. So maybe at 4, we're starting to come down, but a lot of us don't even wait for the 4 hours because we want to eat again, because we've been told to eat 6 meals a day to boost our metabolism. So this is what happens over time, is I eat oatmeal and toast in the morning. I drop some blood sugar. So this is my blood sugar. Blood sugar goes in, and it's supposed to be used for energy and taken out. And that's the way it would have been once upon a time when we worked the fields, okay? I don't know about you, but I don't work the fields anymore. So if I have oatmeal and toast in the morning, and I'm not working the fields, and then 3 hours later, I decide I'm going to have a clementine, well, what's going to happen? More sugar is going to be put in here. Is that sugar gone from in here? No, it's sure not. So more sugar is going to be deposited. More sugar is going to be deposited. And then what happens, guys, is this crazy thing happens. So when we have so much blood sugar in our cells, that popped out. What happens is more and more insulin is dropped, okay? The role of insulin is 2 parts. 1 is to open the cell door. 2 is to gain fat. So the more insulin you have on board, the more unhealthy you are. So the way I put this all together in my dietitian's brain was every time a diabetic that came to see me that was on insulin, and I had to give them more insulin to control their diabetes, the heavier they got. So the more insulin we have in our body, the heavier we're going to get. How do we know if we have extra insulin in our body? Unless we measure it by Dr. C. So I can tell you, and I'll show you actually. Well, let me just read this slide and then I'm going to show you. So gradual weight, this is what our path that we were on. Gradual weight gain over the years. Eventually we'll all develop chronic disease. And then most of our healthcare dollars will be used at the end of our life. And then we will pass. We now understand that, and this is the coolest part for me as being a nutritionist, is understanding the microbiome. So it's this guy. We all have this. This is a stomach. This is a regular sized stomach. Inside this stomach is incredible things. We have ghrelin, we have leptin, and we also have good microbes and bad microbes. People that are unhealthy, that have chronic disease, have bad microbes in their microbiome. In LA, I was never working in LA, I was working right beside LA. I have a special needs child. We were taking the inside of the microbiome, this almost makes me teary, the inside of the microbiome of a quote-unquote regular kid, and we implanted it into a very low, non-verbal autistic child, and 4 days later that child popped.
Oh, wow.
So we are that close, guys, to personalized nutrition. But we know that 80% of our immune system comes from our gut. So if we don't have a good gut, we're not going to be healthy. So the role of the dietitian is to really work on changing the gut microbiome. So we understand that people that have really good healthy microbiomes don't develop chronic disease. People that have unhealthy microbiomes develop things like diabetes, cancer, heart disease, high blood pressure, and Alzheimer's disease. And for the first time ever, I can tell you, Alzheimer's is in my life. It's in my family. We can actually do something to prevent it now. Alzheimer's is now being called type 3 diabetes because of the amount of sugar that we are taking in. So on an autopsy, when we do the autopsy on a patient that's had Alzheimer's, we can actually see in their brain deposits of sugar and fat because of their diet. So there is something that we can do. We no longer have to be ridden and laden by our genes. We can change them. And that's amazing. So, where did we go wrong? The snacking industry went wrong. And also, electricity went wrong. So our ancestors, our way ancestors, they used to eat by the sun. When the sun rose, they would eat. When the sun set, they would stop eating because there was no electricity. So when electricity came around, all of a sudden we could eat whenever we want. We really should be eating in an 8 to 10 hour window. Yesterday I counseled somebody that ate 17 out of 24 hours a day. Tell me where gut rest is in that. When on the end of 17 hours, he still has 3 hours of blood sugar in him. No, there's no rest for the gut. We used to think that sleep was just good for sleep. We know that sleep is so important now because it actually does a lot of functions and gets rid of a lot of the junk that we need to get rid of. So if we don't sleep, we're going to be in bad shape the next day nutritionally. So when I counsel someone, the very first thing I ask is about sleep. So our ancestors ate 3 meals a day and they stopped eating, and my favorite mean meme ever is, oh my goodness, I got fat by snacksident. So we don't want to get fat by snacksident, okay? So snacking leads to insulin resistance, and let me show you what that looks like. Boom! There it is. Right here. Guess what I had before I understood it? Insulin resistance. So the very first thing when I talk to a patient, because it's all virtual right now, so I can't see them, so they describe their body to me. So I say, what does your body look like and where have you gained weight? And if they say, I don't know, like around the middle section, my thing is, you have a muffin top? And they're like, well, you're direct. And I'm like, well, do you? Yes, I do. Well, then you probably have insulin resistance because 80% of the population has insulin resistance. So what happens if we continue on this model of eating 6 times a day is we never clear the glucose from our cells. So then more and more and more insulin drops, okay? So more and more insulin drops. And then what happens, guys, is the cell gets so gummed up, it doesn't work anymore. It gets so completely gummed up, it doesn't work anymore. And it gets gummed up to the fashion of this, where we had a very, very happy cell before, but now we have a very unhappy cell because it's so covered by insulin, okay? Now, here is where science gets really cool, because I have clients that eat all the time, and they say they're never full. They never feel like they get energy. They're never full. If we are insulin resistant, can glucose get in? Can we get energy? Nope. So we keep trying to feed it. So we keep eating glucose. So what happens is just more and more insulin lies on. So for 80% of the population, I consider them, I have to think of a new metaphor, but almost like a boat, okay? You're floating. You shouldn't be floating. You should be kind of like a little bit submerged in the water, okay? So if you're floating, you have too much insulin on board. We need to drain you of that insulin. If you're a constant snacker, we need to drain you of that insulin. How do we do that? Well, insulin is definitely an overflow phenomenon. So let me teach you this. So, our bodies can handle sugar, right? Who doesn't like sugar? I do. So, I do, but I caveat that. So, okay, here's my example, and this will be an example that you will remember. So, our bodies are good at processing sugar. Sugar is our main source of energy unless we go to fat, okay? So, our body can tolerate a little bit of sugar. A little bit. Doing fine. Chilling, no problem. Maybe my insulin level is raising a little bit. I don't know. So I can tolerate a little bit more. Maybe my hemoglobin A1C, which is the measure for diabetes, starts to go up just a little bit, but not crazy. I'm not pre-diabetic yet. Now I'm pre-diabetic, okay? And now I'm insulin resistant and pre-diabetic. Guess what happens when it goes over, guys? What do you have? Diabetes is what you have. You have diabetes. So, believe it or not, I've been in the field so long that we actually used to teach people that sugar didn't cause diabetes. Oops. Whoops, that was wrong. So here's another example of insulin really trying to get in. So this is the glucose. Your glucose is full as possibly can, and insulin is still trying to push it in. It's almost like a subway. Here's the glucose that's still trying to get in. There's no more room in the subway, but it's trying to push itself in. And if we continue to do this, it will end up in diabetes. So we don't want that. I don't want that. So let's prevent it. So we have to stop sugar, okay? And I know sugar is so delicious, and I do love sugar. But sugar, honestly, if you listen to some of the functional medicine doctors that I listen to, the way they talk about sugar is poison, is how they talk about it. And guess what our kids eat most? Sugar. That's right.
And it's actually harder to find products that don't have added sugar in it. I was trying to find broth.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, why sugar in broth? Like, it's crazy.
It is crazy. There's sugar in luncheon meat. There's sugar in salsa. There's sugar in almost every single thing for a purpose. And I'm going to just ruin this for you, Chick-fil-A friends. I never understood it because in California we had one Chick-fil-A in our city. In Florida, there's like one on every corner. And I think that they should have done the COVID testing that way. They figured it out. So, but, okay, you're just going to hate me. I'm just going to tell you the truth though, because that's who I am. I'm transparent. Every single chicken breast that Chick-fil-A makes, they take a syringe and they shoot in sugar.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Make it taste better?
Addiction.
Why do you think there's those lines?
Gosh.
Get addicted.
Addiction.
Oh.
So, sugar. Anybody want to age older? Anybody want to get really old fast? Nope, me neither. So let's just stop the sugar. It causes high cholesterol and triglycerides. So most people think, oh, I can't eat fat, I have high cholesterol. So this is another example of the cell, okay? This is a very full cell of sugar. It doesn't have any more room. It doesn't have anywhere else to go. So what it does, eventually, is the cell does this. Starts popping out little packages of triglycerides and cholesterol. Triglycerides and cholesterol are not caused from fat. They are caused from the overconsumption of sugar and starch. So if you have high cholesterol and you come to see me, I'm probably not going to take you off fat. I'm going to take you off some of your sugar and your starch, because that's the reason that people have high cholesterol. Which, if you go to see a cardiologist, what are they going to tell you? Most cardiologists are going to tell you. Yeah. So, let's go on here. One of the, it's going to come. So the science is catching up, and then medicine will come about 10 years after that. So we're there, we're coming, we're on the cusp. But I went to this one talk about this guy who worked in recovery centers with drug users, actually. And so he was comparing the use of cocaine and sugar. So he put two images on the screen, one of a person that just ate a bunch of sugar, and one of a person that just got high on cocaine. Guess what the brain looked like? The same brain, merged. So sugar is just as addictive as cocaine. There's your message. Okay.
It's like 10 times more addictive.
It is. She's right. It's 10 times more addictive,
Yeah.
and that's because it's 10 times more available.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So here's one of the questions on your form. So on your form, I asked you, what do you think the average sugar intake for an average American is today? What do you think?
300.
You are right. It's 300.
300
300 grams.
grams?
300 pounds.
I was
300 grams. 300 grams. And that is why, if we don't change things, guys, our society is not going to do well. So, why do we have that much sugar intake? Because of soda, okay? Mm-hmm. Soda is killing us. So please, if you drink soda, stop drinking soda. And if you're doing diet soda, it's no better. Juice is not better either. This is one of the very Dietitian 101 things that we learn. Don't drink your calories. Mine, on the exception, might be a glass of wine once in a while. But with that exception, it's water, sparkling water, bubblies, something like that. But we should not be drinking our calories. So, we should not be exceeding more than 25 grams of added sugar a day. The beautiful thing, I should have brought a food label. The beautiful thing is finally the boards, it's not even on here, actually separated out on the nutrition facts, naturally occurring sugars and added sugars. So it's the added sugars the body doesn't know what to do with. So if we eat so much sugar, guys, and our liver gets full, like if our liver is full of cholesterol because we have so much sugar, where the sugar is going to go, it's going to deposit into our legs, cause peripheral neuropathy. It's going to deposit into our breasts and possibly cause cancer. It's going to deposit into our brain and cause Alzheimer's disease. All because, get ready. In 1940s, there was a study that came out that actually showed sugar was 100% toxic. However, the sugar industry was bigger than the protein industry. Mm-hmm. And the protein industry didn't have enough ammunition to fight that fight. So the sugar industry pointed everything at the animal industry, and now we know that that's a bunch of garbage. And animal protein, let me qualify, clean animal protein is acceptable. This overconsumption of sugar and starch is not. All right. Okay, so this is kind of fun. So when I worked in the hospital, I wore this badge on my lab jacket that said, "Fiber is sexy," right? And the doctors and the nurses would come up to me and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so weird. Why is fiber sexy?" And I'm like, "Do you know what fiber does for us? It helps with cholesterol. If we get enough of it, we get a complete bowel movement. We're not bloated. It helps with our gut bacteria. Matter of fact, if it has fiber in something, like for example, if you're eating 3 grams of fiber, you're not actually absorbing that fiber, your bacteria is eating that fiber. So I always try to choose higher fiber foods so I can eat more of them because I know my bacteria is eating some of them. So, let's see, this is on your quiz. What do you think the average intake of fiber is in Americans?
9?
You got it. 9 grams. What do you think 9 grams does to us if we don't have enough fiber? Colon cancer, heart disease, diabetes, etc., etc. So here's another fun fact. So our ancestors, I don't know who measured this, it was not me. Our ancestors, when they used to poop, their poop, dietitians talk about poop all the time. So their poop used to be 2 pounds. Guess what the average weight of the poop is in America now?
Quarter.
0.6.
What?
Yep. And guess where America falls in terms of deaths out of 100 countries? We are one of the 10 top technological countries. Where do you think we fall in a list of 100 countries of deaths? Do you think we fall like we're in the top 10, like we live the top 10? No.
Probably number 1.
52. Guess who's above us? Bosnia. Bosnia is above us.
Not Bosnia.
Right, there's nothing wrong with Bosnia. But maybe, I shouldn't say that. Maybe it's a very developed country, I don't know. But I was surprised to hear that as a dietitian. I was like, oh my gosh, like we're so technologically advanced and we're dying so early. Guess what we're dying of? Our food system is what we're dying of. So, food can be medicine if we look at it for what it can actually do for us. So how we teach food now is much different than that crazy old food pyramid that we used to do, okay? That thing needs to go away forever. So if you ever see a dietitian that's not me, and she pulls out a food pyramid, please just say, thank you. Okay, because do you remember what's on the bottom of that food pyramid?
Grain.
Do you remember what the servings on those were?
50%.
10 to 12 servings of grains a day. That's right. And do you remember what was on the top of the pyramid?
Oils and
Fat, right?
fats.
Fat and sugar. Well, not even sugar, sorry. Fat was on the top. Yeah. So we went on that length for a while, but I can go back to that slide and show you the progression that we've made with the food pyramid. Not very much. So what we do now is we teach a portion plate. So a portion plate has 3 different sections. Portion plate has changed over the years. Portion plate here has fruit on it. Do you see that? Fruit and veg. The new portion plate does not have any fruit on it. Let me tell you about fruit real quick before I go into this. Fruit is great, okay? It is fantastic for you. Fruit is full of sugar. Fruit is full of fructose. That is the sugar that's in fruit. Fructose is 100% metabolized through the liver. So people are actually getting fatty liver disease now because of the overconsumption of fruit and juice. So we need to pull back on the fruit a little bit and do more on the veggies. So that's why they changed the portion plate, to make it more veggie appropriate. So on the portion plate you can see there's 3 different sections. There's the protein, there's the vegetables, and then of course there's the starch. So we've learned over the years how people eat. We've done plate studies. So we present a plate to a man. Generally, they choose the protein first. We present a plate to a woman. She chooses the starch first. Okay? So that's just the way that we are designed. That's the way that God designed us. So we know now the proper way to eat. We call it stacking. So we do that for a reason. Protein stays in the stomach the longest. Between 4 to 5 hours is what the protein stays in our stomach. So it makes us full. We want to be full. Do we want to be hungry? Do we like to be hungry? No. So we want to eat our protein. What is the appropriate portion of protein? God did that for us too. Made our hands. So our hands are the appropriate portion for protein. If you got a bigger hand, you get more protein. Okay? Growing up, it used to be the protein was the star on the plate. It's not anymore. The star on the plate is the vegetables, but we do need the protein, and I'm going to explain that to you. So let's go ahead and assume that I'm not going to say me, my husband is the cook. Let's just say that he made the salmon. And then we had carrots and broccoli, and then I had pasta. So this was my meal. So I would start with the protein because this is going to get me the most full. It's also delivering 20 amino acids, which is meant for building muscle. So I can tell you this, and I say this guardedly, the heaviest patients I've ever counseled in my life are vegetarians. So there is a purpose for protein. It does not have to be massive. I talked to this lady yesterday and she's like, I'm eating so much protein. Do you know how the session ended? With her wanting turkey at the end of the night. So people don't know what they want. So protein is important because it stays in the stomach longer. But here is the other beautiful part about protein that is going to make so much sense to you. So in the morning, if I was to have oatmeal, maybe I had an egg with it. What happens to my blood sugar is this, guys. Protein brings down the peak of blood sugar. This is critical for you to know because the higher our blood sugar goes, the more insulin we dump and the more belly fat we get. So whenever you eat, it's kind of cheeky, but whenever you eat, I say to my clients, never eat a naked carbohydrate. Put something with it. Put a protein with it or put a fat with it. That's going to bring down the blood sugar. So when we're doing our meals, we're going to eat our protein first because I know that's going to help my blood sugar. And then I'm going to go on to eat my vegetables. Vegetables, I have so many clients from UCF, and they don't know how to cook, and they don't know how to prepare vegetables. And do you know, believe it or not, before the low-fat movement came in, kids actually used to enjoy eating vegetables because parents cooked them in bacon grease and lard, and they added salt to them, and it tasted delicious. As soon as the low-fat movement came in, we went to steaming broccoli. Does anybody like steamed broccoli? No.
Yes, I do.
I'll say, I like steamed broccoli with a big dollop of grass-fed butter on it. Good to go. Good to go. Yeah. So the message here is vegetables are incredibly important. They're not only important because they were good for us. Our parents taught us that vegetables were good for us. What we know now is that the vegetables, it's the colors of the vegetables, guys. So they're called polyphenols. The colors of the vegetables are called polyphenols. And our gut bacteria love color. So what I say to my clients all the time, do you have color on your plate? I say that to my son, Jack. I'm like, where's your color? And he's like, all right, Mom, I guess I need a carrot. You know, so we need veggies. We need protein. What we don't need, and what is not essential, is this guy. This wheat. This wheat is not essential. It's yummy, but it's not essential, okay? And why is it not essential? Because it's a carbohydrate. We can get carbohydrates from other sources. The wheat that we grow here is a Franken wheat. It's not normal wheat. It's not the ancient grain. It has 3 times the amount of gluten than it should, and it's a stomach disruptor. So what we try to do is remove this to try to drain some of that insulin to make you healthier, and what we replace it with is maybe something that has a little bit more fiber, which are beans. So this is a complete meal. What we're missing here, and this is very important for you to hear me say, we are missing a good source of oil. Oh my gosh, a dietitian's talking about eating oil? Oil is important. Guess what happened in the low-fat movement? We lost all of our hormones. Guess what the backbone of every hormone is? Lipid. If we don't have any fat, how are we going to make hormones? We can't. So I tell my clients, use olive oil, use coconut oil, use avocado oil. Those are the only 3 fruit oils that are good for you. And they're fruit oils. Avocado, coconut, and there you go. That's right. Olive, avocado, and coconut. The other oils, guys, that you'll see out there, especially in my worst food ever, which is Coffee Mate, is seed oils. Seed oils are a disaster. So seed oils are safflower, sunflower, soybean oil. They're even putting cottonseed oil in our food.
You say it's in coffee mate?
Uh-huh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I can tell you a whole story on coffee mate. But what has happened over the years is the consumer, the grocery store keeps changing to our needs. So if one consumer buys something, they're going to make more of it. And then all of a sudden it becomes acceptable. Did anybody notice over the years that the serving size for a children's size cup at McDonald's used to be 6 ounces? And now it's 12 ounces. Nobody noticed because it gradually happened. That gradually it was decided that Coffee Mate was the thing to go into our coffee. It's not. I'm going to tell you this Coffee Mate story, and then I promise I'll end. So, in Canada, I had to do a community rotation, and in Canada we have a lot of Indian reserves. So, we actually stayed. We were actually invited as interns to stay with them in the reservation and learn their life and learn their skills. Unfortunately, a lot of reservations are food deserts. They don't have very good access to food, and a lot of their food is processed. So I was giving this presentation on just basically healthy eating, and I was like such a green dietitian, like brand new green. And there was this young mom in the back, and she put up her hand, and she said, "Miss Diane," because I wear a name tag, and she's like, "Can you please tell everybody the difference between Coffee Mate and infant formula?" And I'm like, I didn't do that with my head. I was like, well, there is one is for babies and one is for coffee. And then I just asked straight out, I'm like, may I ask why you asked that question? And she said my friend ran out of the baby formula and gave the baby Coffee Mate, and the baby died. So this took me down a whole spectrum of what this stuff was. The powdered stuff, so this is powdered stuff, okay? The powdered stuff actually says on it, combustible, okay? Now, most food is combustible, but most food doesn't allow a flame to jump from here to here. Coffee Mate will do that, the powdered stuff. So then, I'm a smart woman, but sometimes I'm a little bit dumb. I became the Nestle dietitian. Nestle makes Coffee Mate, by the way. So I didn't do my homework, and I just gave the information, which I do. And so I went in and I gave this presentation on how horrible Coffee Mate was to Nestle. And I was giving the presentation feeling all confident, and one of the employees said, we make that, right? And I'm like, well, I'm delivering it now, so I'm just going to deliver it. So I delivered the information. The manager came up to me afterwards, and he said, we make that product. And I said, that I sent you my PowerPoint. So, I didn't want to make your company look bad, but I'm going to tell you that your product is garbage. And he's like, you really think it's garbage? And I'm like, 100%. So he said, do you want to see how it's made? I said, I do. So he took me into the factory. He showed me how it was made. Guys, if you saw how it was made, you would never, ever put that in your mouth. It is full of seed oil. It is full of disgusting, gross, terrible. So any client that I meet that comes to me, I had this client yesterday, that's just over the years gradually gained 15 pounds. The only thing that she's changed is added Coffee Mate. She's like, it's just Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate will make you gain weight. So if you're using Coffee Mate, get rid of the Coffee Mate and replace it with whole cream, heavy cream.
So in essence, keto is kind of the right way to go.
It's, keto in women is really hard because, especially for menstruating, it's really hard. So I prefer a more balanced, because I think it's hard to stay on keto long term. So I think if we can get to a place of understanding how to do food combinations and control our blood sugars, we don't have to go that extreme to keto. And that's what I teach my clients.
I think the word keto has become very confusing.
It has become.
It's really just low carb.
It is low carb.
Yeah. Not many people really do keto.
No, they don't trust me. They
Yeah.
don't.
Keto.
But low carb, I think, is pretty across the board, right?
Across the board, we need to lower our carbohydrates, absolutely. So this is me now. I no longer have a weight management issue. I have more energy than I ever do. I don't sleep anymore. I sleep at night. I don't sleep during the day. I feel the best I finally feel. I don't count calories anymore. I have food freedom. I teach my clients food freedom. And I can tell you, I'm just going to give a plug to Dr. C. because he was a big reason for why I got better. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, so I had low thyroid in California. I was given levothyroxine, sent on my way. I didn't feel any better, waiting to get thinner, but I didn't get any thinner. So then I came to meet Dr. C, and he said, has anyone ever run your antibodies before? And I'm like, no. So he's like, well, let's run your antibodies. And I'm like, okay. He's like, oh, you've got Hashimoto's. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he said, have you gone gluten-free? And I said, Dr. C, I don't believe in gluten-free. Sorry, I don't. And he said to me, can you do anything for 3 months? And I said, I can do it for 3 months. He said, let's do it again. Let's repeat your labs in 3 months. Okay, so I went for 3 months. My antibodies went down by half. I went 3 more months, had my antibodies tested again. We're in the 25 range. It was 25. It was within normal range. And that was because there was adequate testing, and I fixed myself, not through meds, but through diet and food. I figured out if I took gluten out of my diet, I would feel better. And guess what happened when I took gluten out of my diet? I felt better. So that's how I'm going to end my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I'm going to pass this little trinket around. This is your last little quiz. You're going to tell me how much you think this baby weighs.
Are we saying right now?
Yep.
I think it's 13.
Okay.
Well, 10 pounds.
Feels like between 5 and 10.
I think it's 8.
We already know.
Mine was 12. I said 12.
Less than 10.
I know.
Okay. So this is actually 5 pounds of fat.
Oh.
5 pounds of fat. So I got my pellet this week by Dr. C. So he was talking about the importance of, like, we have visceral fat and we have somatic fat. Those are big words. Visceral fat is the fat surrounding your organs. Okay, that's really bad fat. That's this fat, guys. And we used to think this fat was just kind of just there, didn't really communicate. But the more belly fat that we get, the more belly fat it wants. So the belly fat talks to itself. So how does it talk to itself? Through sugar is how it talks to itself. We want it to stop talking and be mute. Stop feeding it sugar. And I want to thank you so much for coming out tonight. I hope you learned something.
That's wonderful.
This is my card. I am Dr. C's referring dietitian. And you have me. Husband, do you need one?
Thanks.
What do you want?
I'm open for questions if anybody has any questions.